Welcome to SUP Safe Module 8, Planning a Trip. The first thing we'll do is just quickly run through the contents for this module. So we'll cover planning checklists. We'll look at trip options and top tips. We'll have a quick look at leadership. We'll do a route planning review. So we'll actually review a route that I did back in November last year. And then there's a route planning exercise, so everyone can have a go at planning a route. And then there's a further reading section. Okay, first up we've got a planning checklist. So this is just an aide-memoire about some things that we just might to consider before planning a trip. So yeah, we need to check the weather forecast, river levels or tides. We've previously covered that in module 5, 6 and 7. Venue choice, where are we going? Is it a lake, river, canal, the sea? Is the venue familiar, or is this my first trip? If it's my first trip, maybe I need to do a recce to check it out first. Have a look at the launch spot, landing spot, car park, etc. Okay, we just talked about parking. So parking and access to the water. How far is it to walk from the car on the launch and recovery? Maybe I need a kayak trolley. Do I need a shoulder strap to help me carry my board? Access points to launch and recovery. Are they safe? Are they easy access from the car park? Need to look at some places to rest, places to have our lunch. And if things do take a turn for the worst, is the access for the emergency services en route? Can they easily get there on foot or in a vehicle, or is it the only route would be the inshore lifeboat or a helicopter? Access permission. Some venues you need a permit or a license. And again, some of the paid venues, maybe you need third-party insurance as a prerequisite. Is there any sensitive wildlife in the area that I need to be aware of? We covered that in module 4. And do I need a map or an app to help me understand the distances involved and to actually help locate where I am at any point during the trip? Hazards. We need to review any potential hazards, so we refer back to module 1. So we had our hazard table for coastal regions, and we had our hazard table for inland waters. Skills and experience. Have my group and I got the experience and the skills to SUP this section of river or the coast? What happens if one of my fellow paddlers falls in and can't get back on the board? Could I assist? Well, we covered that back in module 3. Could I tow a tired paddler back to the jetty? Again, if we refer back to module 3, we covered that. And finally, is everyone in my group a strong swimmer? Have we all got PFDs? Okay, trip options and tips. So if we just look at the options first, we can choose a venue or a route and then wait for the right conditions. So, make sure we've got the right weather, wind, flow, tide, etc. Or we can review what we think the weather conditions are going to be, and then we can pick a suitable route or venue to suit that weather. A few top tips. Let's not plan on circumnavigating around Ullswater on our first trip, because it's quite a way. It's 15 miles. Make sure we know our fellow paddlers before doing that long trip. So let's say we are going to do that trip round Ullswater and it's 15 miles, maybe we're going to split it and do it over 2 days, then we wouldn't want to just meet someone that we've met on Facebook for the first time and attempt to do that trip. It's best to do some, if we meet new people, which is great, but let's do some shorter trips first and make sure we're kind of compatible and we've got kind of common goals and common expectations. Yeah, it's really sensible to have a plan B. So if our first choice, we've got some issues, maybe the offshore wind is a bit too strong, that we've got a fallback position to go on the River Wear at Durham. Planning a trip, a tactical approach, using the Bullseye approach or a Bullseye technique. The Bullseye technique is used in assessing for avalanche risk, but it can be applied to many outdoor activities. I've successfully used it for many of the mountaineering trips that I've done in the past. So it kind of starts off with maybe the week before. I start looking at what the long range forecast is and what the long range conditions are, and then I might start looking at some possible venues for the weekend. So I'm looking at the forecast and I'm looking at some options several days ahead. Then when I get to the day before, again, I've obviously got the forecast for tomorrow, and I've got my condition, my river levels, my tides, and then I'm probably narrowing it down. So I've got a plan A, and I've got a plan B. And then actually on the day, when I turn up on the day, then I can make a choice, A or B. So I turn up at Seaton Carew, 1 foot waves, offshore wind of 5 miles an hour. That's it. I'm going for option A. Or I arrive at the car park and it's the wind's really strong. There's some big waves on the coast, so I'm headed inland. I'm going on the River Wear at Durham. So this approach, it allows us to kind of fine tune our evaluation, and a kind of evaluation doesn't stop once we've started. When I'm paddling, I'm kind of asking myself some questions over and over again, which is, is the weather changing? Are the conditions changing? Is everyone in the group okay? Does everybody look okay? Are they warm enough? Is anyone looking worried, or is everyone smiling? And I'm also saying, is it safe? Okay, it's getting a bit windier. Waves are getting a little bit a growing height. So is it safe? And then yeah, if it's looking a bit marginal, do I need to change my plans? And I'm going to do that sooner rather than later. Leadership. Every trip needs a leader. A strong leader can effectively manage a group without being condescending and by keeping it fun. Let's just run through a few key points. So yeah, a good leader, we can ensure that good communication is maintained, so everybody knows what we're doing. If things change, then we need to make sure that that we're all aware that we're going to cut our trip short by 15 minutes, or we're going to change and have our lunch here. It's really good just to keep everybody in the loop. Yeah, we need to make sure that we've all got the right equipment, or if we're doing a multi-day trip and we've got some shared group equipment, we just need to make sure Simon's brought that spare paddle. We also need to keep an eye on the group. So keep an eye on the group, our timings, so we're making good time, is the weather changing, etc. And I think this is a key point. We ensure decisions are made and we avoid prevarication. There's many a time groups carry on and things go wrong, and then afterwards when we're in the pub talking about it, we kind of say, yeah, well, I knew the wind was picking up, it was doing that, an hour before we had that problem. So make sure those decisions are made early. Yeah, people can lead different sections of the trip, and that's fine. You just need to be clear who's responsible for leading at any point. This is just a couple of sentences I put together about essential criteria for a leader. So we need to choose a venue, trip distance, and weather conditions that are suitable for all the group. If this means trimming back our own expectations, then so be it. This will ensure everyone enjoys the trip and we minimize the risk of something going wrong. British Canoeing have got some excellent e-learning packs for leaders. So I'll include the British Canoeing e-learning pack in the video description. This is a free online training and assessment tool for leaders, and it only takes 20 minutes. So it's well worth taking a look. Okay, route planning review. The next few slides we can actually walk through a route that I did with one of my friends, Yvonne, back in November last year. So you won't be surprised. It's based from Seaton Carew, which is a coastal location not too far from where I live. Seaton Carew Beach to Teesmouth and return, 26th of November 2020. Okay, so we'll just take you through all the stages of the planning that we did for this route. So the kind of first questions I was asking was, how far is it? How long will it take us? And yeah, just have a quick chat with Yvonne just to make sure she's up for going on the trip. So so I've got the OS online maps app on my phone. So I used the little app to work out the route distance, so you can actually plot your little routes in. So we were gonna park at the car park, through the surf, turn right, hug the coast, hit the North Gare breakwater, hard right, follow the breakwater into the beach, have a coffee and a biscuit, and then basically retrace our steps. So the first thing was how far was it? So I used the OS maps. So it was just over 5 kilometers one way. So the return trip was almost 11 kilometers. So how long is it going to take us? Well, assuming we're paddling at 2 miles an hour or 3.2k, then the trip's going to take us 3 and a bit hours. So say 4 hours, including a coffee break at Teesmouth Beach. So I bounced that information off Yvonne. We both know this area quite well. Yvonne's an open water swimmer, so she swims off the beach quite a lot. I'm quite a keen bird watcher, so I've walked up and down this area of coast, and I've also walked around this area, so we both knew the area very well. Okay, can we do the route, and what about local knowledge? Is the route within our capabilities? Well, Yvonne and myself, we've paddled together on many occasions, similar distances, longer distances on the river and the sea, and we knew one another quite well. So I think that was a tick in the box there. Again, we just need to be cautious about people we don't know that well. So start small and then gradually build up with experience. Okay, on the previous slide, I used my OS Maps app. So I think that costs about £20 a year. So this is a free version. So this is Google Maps, very similar functionality. You can plot your route, work out your distances, etc. This is really good, and it's free as well. Car park, launch site, escape points. Well, we knew the area pretty well. We knew there was a car park here, some toilets as well, some good steps with handrails from the car park to the beach. Again, escape points. If anything happened, we could just, we're pretty close to the beach. We could just paddle to the beach. And again, if one of us took a turn for the worst and we needed emergency services, then there's access onto the beach for four-wheel drive all the way along here. And also at Teesmouth Beach. The other thing we knew, there was several sections of rocks that became exposed at low tide. That obviously, if we went at low tide, then we would obviously need to avoid those. And the other thing we knew was that the main shipping channel into Teesport is kind of lurking about half a mile over here. So if we just need to make sure that we do a good turn around North Gare Breakwater. Okay, long range weather forecast and hazards. Okay, so we're going to use our Bullseye approach. So we're going to start looking at what the conditions are a few days in advance. So we'd spotted that there was a low westerly wind, so offshore 4 miles an hour, with a northerly surf 1 to 2 feet. We'd spotted that a few days in advance. We also had a favourable spring high tide, so the tide was going to really be high and really cover up all the rocks. And we had a sunset at 4 o'clock, so it looked pretty good. The next thing is we orientate the wind and the swell to the map. The other thing I just want to mention is the tidal current up and down the northeast coast is really low, so it's not like paddling around the Isle of Wight where the tidal current can be pretty strong. So for this trip we can pretty much ignore that. So here's our wind, 4 miles an hour offshore, so that's well below our 10 mile an hour limit. And here's our swell. So on our route, on the outward leg, we're kind of going with the swell. On the return, we're paddling into it. And the wind, yeah, it's coming from the side on the outward and the return. So that felt, from a conditions perspective, that felt really good. The next thing, we looked at hazards. So we got any hazards or landmarks that can aid navigation. We're going to look at traffic as well. So maybe take a look at that first. So the odd surfer up and down here. Sometimes we get jet skiers coming down from the harbour from the north, and there's the odd fishing boat. So pretty quiet from a traffic perspective. If we mark on where we know the rocks are, so there's rocks here, there's rocks here that also have a marker post. The next thing we asked ourselves was, well, how difficult it is to navigate. Well, it's pretty easy. We launch through the surf, turn right, hug the coast, just carry on down, bump into the North Gare breakwater, round the breakwater, and then basically repeat. So from a navigation perspective, this is really easy. The only other thing that we needed to be aware of is the main shipping channel into Teesport is half a mile from the end of the North Gare breakwater. So plenty of distance. So not really an issue, but just something for us to note. Okay, the next slide just looks at how to spot where we are. So if we're on a route, how can we spot exactly where we are? So we'll go through a few options. Okay, so we've been paddling for an hour. Where are we? So the first option that we could use, it's called dead reckoning. So we assume that we're on a course and we assume that we're going at a set speed. So if we know how long we've been paddling for, we can work out how far down our route we are. So if we assume we're going at 2 miles an hour, so in 1 hour we will have travelled 2 miles or 3.2 k. Yeah, and then we can mark that on. So that's where we would be. So option B, we could use a GPS or a smartphone with Google Maps. Okay, so with a GPS or a smartphone with Google Maps, then we could just fire that up, and then we'd get a little dot where we were. We could take a few compass bearings and then transfer them to our map. So from the church, from the end of a building, from the end of the breakwater, and then yeah, basically we're somewhere in that red triangle. And the final option, which is pretty easy and works quite well with this route, because the route's very close to the shore, is we can just tick features off. So as we're coming down, we're just ticking things off as we come along. So so there's 4 options for how to spot where we are. Okay, forecast on the day of the trip and the observations when we arrived in the car park. So look at the forecast first off. So this is magic seaweed. So so surf 1 to 2 feet. So that looks pretty good. Winds 6, 5, so wind speed looks good. Gusts, yeah, pretty low, and direction, yeah, kind of westerly. So all looking pretty good. Double check the conditions using windy. So wind is saying southwest. 5, 3, 2 average, gust 10, 8, sun reasonably warm for November. So forecast looking good. So quick telephone call. So we decided to meet at 10:30 in the car park to inflate, etc. And then our plan was to launch at 11:30, which was 1 hour before high tide. And we've got plenty of daylight. Sunset was at 4 o'clock. So we arrive at the car park at 10:30, and what do we find? Well, we'd actually found that the wind was more northerly than forecast, but it was very light, and the sea conditions were good. With the surf was really small and the swell was small, so it was really good to go. But just to show you the difference between the forecasted wind, so this was the forecasted wind. So magic seaweed was kind of saying westerly, windy kind of southwesterly, but it was actually more northerly. How is that going to affect us? Well, with the wind speeds that were forecasted and the wind speed that we'd actually seen in the car park, is very light winds, so we weren't concerned. Equipment, we both wore wetsuits. I had a Gore-Tex jacket. Yvonne had a neoprene top. We both used 5 or 6 mil wet boots. We both had a PFD. We had plenty of hats and gloves, a shared first aid kit, some rope, and we both had a spare warm jacket in our dry bag. We had some coffee and some snacks, etc. We both had a phone in a waterproof case. We both told our respective partners where we were going, how long we were going to be, and when we were going to be back home. Okay, route cards, we probably haven't talked about them, but basically this is just a printout of the plan. So I've kind of printed it out. I've got some kind of basic information: high tide, sunset, last return time, so the last time we can set off from Teesmouth and get back in daylight, and also the kind of time estimate, 4 hours. It's got the rocks marked on and the distance to the shipping channel. So so the route card is pretty good. We could print it off, we could laminate it. I know this is Brunswick Bay, but we could laminate it, or we could put it in a waterproof case. I found the waterproof cases are really handy, especially if you've got a guidebook for a trip. You can put the guidebook in the waterproof case and then pop it underneath your bungees on the front. That works really well. Okay, just a few pictures of the day. So this is us getting ready to launch on the beach. So you can see the kind of surf and swell is really low. Nice pleasant day, you know, very low wind. This is us approaching the North Gare breakwater. This is us on the other side of the breakwater, paddling down towards Teesmouth Beach. And again, getting a bit closer to the beach. This is us on the beach having our coffee and snacks, and again you could see it was very calm, low wind, no surf, etc. in Teesmouth Bay. And then this is us setting off on the return leg, so we're setting off from the beach, and the North Gare breakwater is over here. So it really was a great day. Okay, let's just have a review of the trip. So I used Strava quite a few times. So I turned it on. So basically, Strava's saying our average paddling was about 2.3 miles an hour, did 6.7 miles, and total elapsed time was 3 hours 35, and a kind of paddling time was 2 hours 51. So if we just see what we planned versus what we did, so we planned to do 2 miles an hour, we did 2.3, a little bit faster. Distance wise, hardly any difference. 6.6 planned, 6.6 we did. Total time, we allowed 4 hours and we did it in 3 hours 35. So that was fine. So lessons learned. Yeah, tell Yvonne about the shipping channel. So I'm not sure how I forgot to tell Yvonne that the shipping channel was out here, but when we were having our coffee and our snacks here, a massive big container ship kind of came in here. So Yvonne was like, you know, wow. So make sure you know, you kind of communicate any key points to the people in your group. Watch out for choppy conditions near the breakwater. So we had a northerly swell, and when we got within a few hundred meters of the breakwater here, the swell was bouncing off the breakwater and it was really choppy. A couple of 100 meters around here, so we just had to kind of kneel down and until we got around the other side of the breakwater. Yeah, the spring high tide. So I didn't actually know at the time, but if you had a neap high tide, then we'd have probably had our coffee and sandwiches somewhere here. So it was actually a spring high tide, so it was really high. Yeah, the wind picked up for the last 40 to 60 minutes on the return. So so we were coming up here, and the wind, even though it wasn't forecasted, it picked up. So to keep good time, we just paddled on our knees. We kept good pace. We also shortened our paddles right down to make like a canoe style paddle, and that really helps. I think just what it shows is when you're on the sea and things change, you can become quite exposed. So yeah, Yvonne's idea of shortening the paddles, it worked really well. And the clothing, yeah, no complaints. Everyone was warm, so that worked out really well. Okay, we've got a route planning exercise. So this is an exercise for everyone to try. So this is a little map of the River Tees. So we've got the River Tees. The flow is going. Hang on, let me get my little pointer. So the flow is going in that direction. We've got some points, A to E, and we've got the distances marked. We're on the River Tees. We've got the river level at Yarm is 0.5 of a metre, so that's the river level measured here. The forecast, sunny intervals 12 to 16, wind southwest 5 to 8 miles an hour. Okay, so we've got a map, got some distances, a river level, and we've got a forecast. So the exercise is to plan a circular day route for your friends on the River Tees. So we plan a day trip with a lunch spot on the River Leven at point C. So we're going to have our lunch point here. There's an alpaca farm here, so that's quite a nice place to have our lunch. So during the trip, we need to visit Yarm at point A and Preston Park at point E. And we also need to plan in an afternoon coffee break somewhere. There are car parks and a safe launch facility at point A, so at Yarm, and at E at Preston Park. So here are the specific questions. So what is the correct wind direction, A, B, C, or D? So we're saying it's a southwest wind. So what is the correct wind direction, A, B, C, or D? Question 2, how do you think the river flow plus the wind direction and strength will affect our trip? So we've got the flow. You need to decide what the true wind direction is for southwest and the speed 5 to 8. What will be your route? So what will be your route that you'll take your friends on? Where will you launch from? Where do you plan to have your afternoon break? Number 6, how far is your total trip in miles? How long do you estimate your trip will take in hours? What time do you plan to meet your friends at the launch spot if you plan to have your lunch at 12:30? So if you plan to have your lunch here at 12:30, what time do you need to meet? And the final question is, one of your party is taken ill at point D. So point D is here. What is the 3-word location you pass on to the emergency services? So someone's not feeling great. Let's say you've rung the ambulance and the operator said, okay, what is your location? Have you got the 3-word app? Can you tell me what the location is using the 3-word app? Okay, that's the exercise. All the information is there. We've covered lots of information that will help you in the other modules with this route planning exercise. So take your time and good luck. The answer is in the answers given at the end of the video. Okay, further reading. Here's a few useful links and references for the slide. So I'll include the British Canoeing e-learning little training pack for leadership. That's really good. Takes about 20 minutes to complete. Again, I've mentioned this book previously, but it's the Kayak Navigation by Franco Ferrero. Again, it's a brilliant book if you're going to do lots of coastal stuff. Definitely recommended. I've got a few little links. We've got Planning Your First SUP Adventure from British Canoeing. That's a good little article. And we've got the SUP Border magazine. I've got a couple of articles here. So one's your first family SUP camping adventure with SUP Border. That's really good. Especially if you're thinking about going on a little mini trip with your family, that's definitely worth looking at. And then again, getting into SUP touring and exploring, again, that's another great little article. Okay, route planning exercise. Here's the answers. So 2 seconds, get me a little pointer. So what is the correct wind direction? A, B, C, or D? So the wind is southwest. So for winds that they're named from the direction that they're coming from, so southwest. So that's actually arrow C. So that's the correct wind direction for a southwest wind. How do you think the river flow plus the wind direction and strength will affect your trip? Okay, so we had 2 potential start points. So we had a car park and a start point at Preston Park at point E and at Yarm at point A. So start point, so if we start at E, so outbound into the wind and flow, return, wind and flow assisted, a good plan for having the wind and the flow helping you on your homeward leg where you may be feeling tired. If we started at point A, outbound, wind and flow assisted, then obviously the return leg were coming into the wind and the flow, so probably not a good idea. Number 3, what will be your route? Well, having said starting at point E looks to be the best idea. So we would go E up to D to B to C to have our dinner at C, then back to B, and we need to go to Yarm as well, so we will go up to A and then return from A to B to D back to E at Preston Park. Where do you launch from? Well, we've already covered that, Preston Park. Where do you have your afternoon break? Well, pretty much anywhere really. You could have it at Yarm, but maybe the best thing to do is to say somewhere to suit on the return leg when the group's feeling a bit tired and yeah, you need a little break. So I think it's really about being flexible. How far is a total trip in miles? Well, if we add up all the distances, it's 7.8 miles, so call it 8 miles. How long do you estimate the trip will take in hours? So 8 miles at 2 miles an hour is 4 hours. Say 30 minutes for lunch and the break, and yeah, maybe 30 minutes stop at Yarm. So say 5.5 to 6 hours total time. What time do you plan to meet your friends at the launch spot if you have to get to the alpacas at point C for 12:30? So point E to C is 2.6 miles. So at 2 miles an hour, that's 1 hour 20. So say 40 minutes to meet in the car park, inflate and launch. So that's about 2 hours. So plan to meet at Preston Park at about 10:30. Okay, one of us is ill. We need to pass on our location using the What3Word app. So obviously we all could have had slightly different answer here. So I got wheat, await, freely. But I think you may get a slightly different location, but as long as the satellite image that I've got here matches yours, so we can see the green on the golf course with the bunkers. Here's the footpath and the river. So as long as you're somewhere in this area, that's fine. I hope you found the exercise pretty good, and I hope you managed to get all those answers. Congratulations, you've completed SUP Safe Module 8. So yeah, that's great, fantastic. If you've actually worked your way through all the modules, and this is the last module, then that's absolutely fantastic. If you have done that, I'd really appreciate some feedback. So you could leave some feedback on YouTube, or you could send me an email directly. Either way is fine. My email is Davey, DAVEY -Brown, BROWN @outlook.com, and I hope you've enjoyed the training course, and I hope you really enjoy your paddling this year. Thank you.